Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here. Today I'm going to show you how I created a festive handmade card for Peppermint Latte Day. This is going to feature the new filtered collection from This Calls for Confetti. This is a clear layering stamp set that gives a more modern twist to those coffee theme images we all love. I'm pairing it with the Boughs of Holly collection, which has some great holly leaves, berries, ornaments, and simple sentiments. Now you'll also see me bring in a few additional supplies throughout the video. As always, use what you already have, but if you would like a full list of the items I'm using, I've linked everything in the description below. So we're going to start by creating the randomly stamped background. Random stamping can easily become chaotic, so I'm going to walk you through a few tips to keep it balanced and cohesive. I'm starting in the lower left corner, and I'm going to stamp this design partially off the edge. Stamping off the edge helps create the illusion of a continuous pattern, just like pattern paper. I am cleaning my stamp between impressions. Then I'm going to shift this up and to the right to begin a diagonal pattern. This diagonal line is going to set the spacing and rhythm of the entire design. So once I have 3 images stamped diagonally, I'm going to begin filling in the remaining space, keeping the same spacing and direction. I chose to stamp all of these images in a dark espresso brown, but you could absolutely use multiple colors. Now, one of the trickiest parts about random stamping is that spacing. Remember, random doesn't mean messy. It means balanced in an organic way. A grid paper really helps with keeping things lined up and consistent, even though the images are supposed to look scattered. Now, if you want to add texture to this, you could also flick a little ink with a brush or use a spatter stamp. Tiny little pops of color can really bring a background to life. All right, now that our larger images are stamped, we're going to fill in the cups. The filtered stamp set includes solid fill images, which are designed specifically to fit inside the line art. Now, I debated doing red and green, but I knew I'd be bringing in more color later with embellishments, so I'm keeping it simple. Remember, you can always customize your color palette. This step goes really quick, and I love how easily it transforms those coffee cup images. I mentioned earlier that I had considered filling in the coffee cups with red and green, but I felt like it would be too chaotic. Instead of stamping large green images, I decided to just add some soft, dry brushing of green ink across the tops of the cups. All right, while I have all of my stamping items out, I'm going to create my sentiment using the Fa La La stamp. This comes from that Boughs of Holly collection. I have cut out a 1/2-inch strip of red cardstock, and I'm prepping it with the It's No Secret anti-static powder, which is an exclusive to This Calls for Confetti. I'm going to stamp it with a clear embossing ink, add some fine white embossing powder, and then I'll heat it on low. I love the look of crisp white lettering on red. It's so iconic for Christmas. All right, now that we have finished all of this stamping, let's go ahead and assemble the card. I have a mocha brown card base that's an A2 size. I have a dark green panel that's cut at 4 by 5 1/4, And then I have that trimmed stamped panel. I also have the sentiment strip and a piece of vellum cut at 3/4 of an inch. The card assembly is going to go really quick, but feel free to add any of your own personal touches as you're assembling the card. I'm going to start by adhering the card panels together with a tape runner. Before I add the stamped panel, I'm going to adhere the sentiment strip to the vellum and layer it over the top of my stamped designs. This vellum is going to soften that bold background, and it's going to prevent my card from looking cluttered. All right, our last step is to add some festive foliage. I use the dies from the Autumn Artisan collection. I wanted to give these berries a more dimensional look, so I'm going to trim the red berries away from the stems and adhere them onto another die cut that I cut from brown cardstock. I'm just going to adhere these in place with some liquid glue using a wax pickup tool. This is gorgeous, by the way, with that rose gold metal and rhinestones. I chose to stick with muted colors for the berries and leaves, but you could definitely change that up. Last year I created a card where I cut the berries out of glitter. Those turned out gorgeous. I've also done another card where the leaves were cut from gold metallic paper. I loved the way those looked as well. Now I am adding a little bit of foam tape to the leaves for some dimension, and I'm just going to tuck these around the sentiment. Feel free to bend those stems slightly and give them a more natural look. I'm going to finish this off with a simple white twine bow. I have layered 2 strands together, tied them into a bow, adjusted the loop, and I'm going to add them to the card with a glue dot. If you want to add more detail, feel free to bring in some pearls, clay bits, candy canes, confetti, or tiny spatters. And here is the finished peppermint latte card. I love the random stamping, bold fills, and simple foliage that came together to create a festive but modern design. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a crafty friend. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.